What do all of these things have in common? Let's find the answer. Proteins are extremely important macromolecules in living organisms. More than 50% of dry mass in the cells is proteins. Proteins has many important functions, for example, to produce hormones, to produce antibodies, to support cells, to replace dead cells, to carry oxygens in the cell filtration systems. Despite their tremendous range of functions, all proteins are made from the same basic subunits or monomers, which we call as amino acids.
Proteins is a long-chain amino acids linked together by peptide bond. All amino acids are compound with similar basic structure. They have amino group, a carboxyl group, and a side chain or R group that is specific to each amino acid.
There are 20 types of different amino acids. All the different proteins are made from these 20 amino acids. The variations in the proteins are caused by the order of the amino acids, the chain length, and the folding in the chains in a distinct ways. How proteins form? Look at this picture. This picture shows how two amino acids are joined together. One loses the hydroxyl group from its carboxylic acids group, while the other loses the hydrogens from its amine group. This leaves the carbon from the first amino acids are free to bind with the nitrogen's atom from the second. This link we call as peptide bond. So the oxygens and the two hydrogens atom will release the amino acid to form the water molecule. A protein made of two amino acids, we call it as dipeptide, while a molecule made of many amino acids, we call it as polypeptide. A protein molecule may contain just one polypeptide, or it may contain two or more polypeptides, which interact with each other. There are four types of protein structures, which are primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structures, and quaternary structure. Let's talk about the primary structure. Primary structures is the linear sequence of amino acids.
A polypeptide or protein molecule may contain several hundred amino acids linked into a long chain. And we know the primary structure is the linear sequence of amino acids. The amino acids in the proteins are joined by peptide bonds, which link the amino groups of one amino acid to a carboxyl group of another. A water molecule is released each time a bond is formed.
Next, secondary structure. Secondary structures is the structure of protein molecule resulting from the regular coupling or folding of the chain of amino acids.
This protein chain often falls into two types of secondary structures, alpha helix and beta sheet. An alpha helix is a right-handed coil stabilized by hydrogen bonds between the amine and carboxyl groups of nearby amino acids. Beta sheets are formed when hydrogen bonds stabilize two or more adjacent strands of amino acids.
Next, tertiary structures. Tertiary structures is the complex structures of the protein molecule resulting from the three-dimensional of the coiling of the already folded amino acid chains.
The tertiary structure of a protein is three-dimensional shape of protein chain. The shape is determined by the characteristics of the amino acids making up the chain.
There are two types of the tertiary structures protein, which are globular proteins and fibrous proteins. A protein whose molecules curls up into the shape of ball, such as the myoglobin or hemoglobin, is known as the globular proteins. Many other proteins do not curl up into a ball, but they form a long string. These are known as the fibrous proteins. Now, let's talk about the difference between globular proteins and fibrous proteins. First, the shape of globular proteins is spherical, while the fibrous proteins is elongated string. Second, globular proteins is soluble in water, acid, and bases, while the fibrous proteins is insoluble in water, weak acid, and weak bases, while it's soluble in the strong acid and strong bases. The third one, globular proteins, has a weak intermolecular hydrogen bonds, while the fibrous proteins has a strong intermolecular hydrogen bond. The example of globular proteins are hemoglobin, insulin, caseins, and many more. While the example of fibrous proteins are elasins, keratin, and salt. The last one, quaternary structure. Quaternary structures is the three-dimensional arrangement of two or more polypeptides.
Two or more polypeptide chains can come together to form one functional molecule with several subunits. For example, the four subunits of hemoglobin cooperate so that the complex can pick up more oxygen in the lungs and release it in the body.
I think that's all for our lesson today. Don't forget to do the exercise and homework on Eduardo. See you later!